Hey everybody, welcome to Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. On this episode, a chef who knew nothing about Mexican cooking until she got a job in New York at what many consider the top Mexican fine dining restaurant in America. Now she's in Las Vegas, running the kitchen at coastal Mexican restaurant Casa Playa, where the food is so handcrafted, even the tortillas are made to order. Here's Sarah Thompson. Chef, how are you? Thanks for doing this.
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
So glad you're here. So, you just got back to Vegas. Where you been?
I went to a wedding in Spain.
I love Spain. Where'd you go?
I do too. The wedding was in Menorca, and then we went to Barcelona, San Sebastian, and Madrid.
How was the food?
It was incredible. In each city, as you know, is so unique. It's like going on 3 or 4 different trips all in one and just experiencing such different cultures all within such a small country. It's really beautiful.
You know, it's an overlooked cuisine, and it's, as with so many countries, it's a series of regional cuisines, but just phenomenal. On my last trip there, for the first time ever, I ate barnacles. Up to that point, I thought they were just something you scraped off a boat. They're the taste is like lobster. They're fantastic.
They're definitely really unique. They're definitely something you need to work for a little bit, but they're really cool.
You're back from such a traditional dining set of cultures in Spain to an incredibly unique dining town in America. Vegas, which years ago was known for the cheap buffet, has become quite the food town.
It has. Even in the past 5 years since I've been here, the city has really grown quite a bit. I mean, you see a lot of successful concepts come into play. There's a second Carbone location that just opened. And then on top of that, these restaurants that are coming in bring in a lot of talent. And then a lot of the chefs that come in to open these restaurants go off on their own and open their own spots, which is really cool to see and be a part of and see all of these chefs kind of come up and find their own success in this town.
Was fine dining or even beyond that adventurous eating part of your family life growing up?
Not so much. Food was always really important to us. We always ate together, ate a meal together. My parents always planned and cooked a lot of food for us, but it wasn't fine dining at all. Fine dining is something that, as I learned more about cooking and decided that that was a career path that I wanted to go on, it was something that I definitely sought out and was curious about. I mean, it's so different from what you eat day to day, and it's just like a completely different world, right?
Well, were you eating, you grew up in a suburb of Boston?
That's correct.
So were you eating all that boring New England food?
Yeah.
I can say that. I grew up in Western Massachusetts. It's boring New England food, except for whole belly clams, which are phenomenal. But was it? Is that what you ate?
I wouldn't say that we were eating adventurous food. My mom had every single Bon App magazine from 1989 until 2022. So we were always making new things and she was always trying new ingredients. We ate a lot of crock pot type cooking type things. We ate a lot of pasta, but we were always trying new things. It wasn't necessarily overly adventurous, but we definitely were exposed to probably more than other people in our town.
Well, when did you realize that you were interested in cooking, even before you thought of it as a career? Were you one of those kids who hung out in the kitchen with mom?
Always.
Or dad?
Yeah. But growing up, it was mom. Now it's a little bit more dad, which is funny how the tables have turned. But I was always interested in cooking. I loved making cookies. I loved doing the pasta parties for all of my sports friends. I loved planning what to make every day. I was always really excited about dinner every day. I would help make the grocery list with my mom and plan every meal that we were going to have that week. I loved it. I always loved being a part of it. And it's so funny that even from a young age, I was doing that. And now I do it professionally.
Well, but at what point did you, the college counselor, you're in high school, the college counselors are talking to you. You should do this, you should do that, you should go to school here. When did you realize, I want to cook?
When I was a sophomore in high school is when I decided that this is the career path that I wanted. It's just something that I really enjoyed. I loved people's face when you make them something that's absolutely delicious or something that they love and they crave. I loved their reaction, like the brightness in their eyes. And it's something that I wanted to seek out. So after that, I had a lot of support from my family, my friends. I worked for a local caterer on and off while I could, like on weekends in between sports.
As a server in the kitchen? What were you doing for the caterer?
In the kitchen. chicken.
Making 300 identical plates of second-rate chicken?
Yeah, made a lot of cheese boards, a lot of crudité. I had never even held a knife or been in a professional kitchen before, so you got to start somewhere.
You went to CIA, to the Culinary Institute of America. When did you make that choice? Why that choice?
It's a beautiful school, and we were looking at all of the schools, and it was the best one. So that's the one that we decided to go to. It was a really great experience.
How do you get in there? I mean, I get to go to Harvard, you have to write an essay that no one's ever written before. What do they want from you as a high school student trying to get into CIA? What got you in?
CIA is a very unique college experience because I was in a group of people that were in the same age group, but every 3 weeks there's a new class. So there are people who are in their 40s who want to get a culinary degree, or older, younger, so many different parts of life. And a lot of people will come back to culinary school if they wanted to get, a bigger job or like a more corporate role, and they needed to have these experiences or something on their resume saying that they had a culinary degree. But from high school into culinary school, we had to write an essay, and it was about who inspired you to be a chef. And I wrote about my parents, and that was really it. I mean, solid grades, good record, but it wasn't the very long, drawn out process that you would see going to Harvard or an Ivy or something like that.
Okay, so you go to CIA. Did a light go off? Did you suddenly realize cooking professionally isn't quite what I thought it would be? Or was it just, this is what I thought?
I loved it. I dove in. I thought it was the best thing ever. It was really cool to learn about all of these different things that you're passionate about, and they give you a lot of different experiences. You learn about like cuisines of Asia, cuisines of Latin America. You learn about molecular gastronomy, whatever that may be at that time. You learn about wines. You learn about service. You learn about all aspects of restaurants. So if you are there and you realize the kitchen isn't for me, but I'm really into all of this wine, or I'm really into service and giving that type of experience to people, all of that's really important when you look at restaurants. I mean, it's not just about the food. It's about the hospitality. It's about the service. It's about the overall experience. That school gives you the opportunity to learn about all of those things and figure out what you want to do. And for me, it was always cooking. And I'm really grateful that that's the path that I went on, and I'm still doing it.
So what'd you do after school?
I moved right to New York City. It was the only place I wanted to be.
That takes, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it takes some arrogance, doesn't it? That's the food capital of America.
The peer group that I was in had very similar ambitions and goals. So there was a group of us that all moved to New York, and we all sought out fine dining restaurants. And that's where a lot of our careers started. And it's really cool to see how a lot of them have really grown and now have their own success in their own restaurants. So I moved to New York and I started working at Marea right away as a line cook.
Okay, how do you get high? Marea, Michelin-starred, I think, right?
When I started, they had 1 star, and while I was there, they received their 2nd star.
How do you go straight from culinary school to actual cooking at a Michelin-starred restaurant?
I just applied. I got in touch with the chef, and I had a stage, and they hired me. I got really lucky.
So what'd you learn there?
I learned everything. I learned things that I still apply to the job that I have now. And I was just a cook there. I started off on garde and crudo, which are 2 different stations. They had a crudo station in the restaurant at the time, and they had between 15 and 18 sushi grade fish that they would get in every day. And because they were going through such small quantities of it, the chefs on that station got to break down those fish. So that was the first time I actually got my hands on tuna and mackerel and all of like hamachi and all of these super unique fish that I would never have the opportunity to work with otherwise. And then from there, I went to the hotline and I worked hot apps, I worked entremet, I worked risotto station. And finally, my goal was to be the fish cook. And I was the fish cook there for about a year, which is an insane station.
Well, it's a seafood restaurant, so presumably the fish cook, that's a big deal.
It was incredible, but the volume of fish that they go through blows me away still to this day. I've never seen a restaurant that goes through that much product.
So I'm a home cook, give me a secret. What am I doing wrong with fish? What's my secret? What should I do?
You need to make sure your pan is ripping hot and always put the fish away from you. I had burns all of my arms because I kept putting the fish towards me and all the oil would splash up my arm. I see it all the time. I see all of these influencers on Instagram, they're cooking fish and they just put it in the pan and oil goes everywhere. And I'm like, you're going to burn yourself. Put it away from you.
Okay, so you're working at this amazing restaurant. You move on. Where do you go next?
I moved to Wiley Dufresne's Alder.
Wiley Dufresne, an incredible, innovative chef, well known for, I guess, molecular.
Yes.
You went to Alder, okay.
My executive sous chef, who was one of my mentors, who taught me so much. He taught me how to be a line cook. He taught me all of the things about breaking down fish. He taught me a lot about work ethic and professionalism in the kitchen. He worked for Wiley and he knew that I was looking for something different. So he introduced me. Wiley was opening this restaurant. So I was part of their opening team. And after being there for a year, I was able to get my first sous chef position. And working for Wiley is incredible. And I've said this before, but he is so creative and he pushes all of his cooks and chefs to think about food in a completely different way. It's not just a radish. It's how many things can we do with this radish? You can't just cut it. You can do X, Y, and Z with it. We would have projects based on just an ingredient to figure out how many ways we could alter this ingredient to make it taste better, to make it taste more unique. It was incredible to be a part of that.
Was Alder molecular?
It was not. There were molecular components to it, but it wasn't as molecular as WD-50.
And I'm not a fan of molecular, and I loved WD-50, which was, of course, Wiley Dufresne's first place.
It was a really cool restaurant.
I'm sorry, continue.
Alder was a bit more casual, and the food was very thoughtful and very creative, but it was much more approachable and a much more approachable price point than the WD-50 Michelin star type restaurants.
And we'll be right back. You worked at least one other gig in New York, but I'm kind of jumping ahead here because I want to get you to Cosme. How did you get to Cosme? Which is, to this day, I guess, still regarded as probably, by many people, the finest Mexican fine dining place in America.
Yes, I would agree with you. A little biased, but I would agree.
Well, how'd you get there? First of all, did you know Mexican food? Did you eat it as a kid? I
knew nothing. I went into that restaurant knowing absolutely nothing. And I got that job by chance. Alder was closing, and the woman who was the pastry sous chef at Cosme came in to eat at the restaurant, and I went to culinary school with her, and she was like, "Hey, we're looking for another sous chef. We're opening for more days. Do you want to come in?" And I said yes, because I didn't have anything lined up.
But you went over as a sous chef?
I started as a line cook, and then within 2 months, I was a sous chef.
Wow.
I was hired with the intention of being a sous chef, but they were still open for 5 days, and I would get the promotion when we opened for 7 days.
You go to this incredible Mexican restaurant. Pardon me, you don't know crap about Mexican food, and you're going to be running a bunch of stuff. What was your learning curve?
I went into work every day, and I learned so much. I couldn't tell you what a guajillo chili was. I didn't know anything about heirloom masa. I didn't know anything, but you learn quickly, and everyone around me was really eager to teach and learn, and Daniela is such a good teacher.
Daniela Soto Inez? How do I pronounce it?
Soto Inez.
Okay, and she and Enrique Olvera are the owners.
Yes.
She, I take it, was pretty much your mentor there.
That is correct, yes. And we just ripped the Band-Aid off. I learned so much so quickly. And the entire time I was there, I would go into work every day and learn something new, which was really cool. The way that they approach Mexican food was super unique. It made all of New York City think about Mexican food in a different way.
And what is that different way, other than saying it's not burritos and enchiladas?
The food was light and refreshing and vibrant. Mexican food is incredibly diverse, and there are a lot of Asian influences in the food. Enrique is really inspired by Japanese cuisine. You'll see that a lot in his food. So all of the ingredients and the core of all of what they're doing is Mexican, but they draw really specific influence from other cuisines and other cultures to really elevate it and make it more refined, make it more unique. The flavors are vibrant and light and refreshing and keeps you coming back for more. And the masa program was also something that really had a huge influence on the city, because now you see heirloom masa everywhere, where Cosme was one of the first restaurants, if not the first restaurant in New York, to have their own heirloom masa program.
And for anyone who doesn't know, that's the ingredient produced from corn that is the foundation of tortillas and tamales, correct?
That's correct.
And that's where you learned how to do masa, I guess?
Yeah, that's correct.
Because when we get there in a few minutes, you're well known for your masa program in Vegas now.
Yes.
How did you get, I guess it was through your connections at Cosme that you came to Vegas? Tell me that story.
Daniela and Enrique were opening a restaurant at the Wynn. It was called Ilio.
In Vegas?
Yes. And they asked me to move to Vegas and be the chef de cuisine. I wanted to continue to work in the company, and that was an opportunity to really grow and thrive. So I said yes.
And this was exciting as hell. I mean, you were starting from the ground up.
Yes.
What was the restaurant going to be?
It was called Ilio. It was a fine dining Mexican restaurant.
Any particular region? Mexican or just...
Well, a lot of the food that Enrique and Daniela cooks are inspired by Mexico City, but you'll see influence from Oaxaca. We draw some influence from the coast, the Baja Peninsula and coast, especially because we were on the West Coast for the first time. You would see a lot more influence from the East Coast when we were at Cosme, but being on the West Coast, we would draw a little bit more influence from what we have around us.
Well, technically that would be a desert, but I get it. You were closer to the West Coast than the East Coast.
Yes.
Okay, so this sounds like a wonderful story. You go there full of excitement. It became kind of tragic, didn't it?
Yeah, we were all geared up already. The room was beautiful. We had a full team. We had very highly anticipated opening, and then the world shut down. We were literally slated to open on March 20th, 2020. And the day before is when all of the travel stopped, everything closed.
The pandemic.
The pandemic happened, yeah.
What'd you do?
So the restaurant didn't open as planned, but luckily the wind kept everyone employed, which was incredible. So we were able to keep our team, and we eventually opened, and then the world shut down again, and then we opened again. And as everyone knows, that was such a trying time for restaurants. It wasn't a time to open and promote where people were just kind of surviving. It was a really difficult time for hospitality, and especially because Vegas is a hospitality city. The majority of the people in the city work in the casinos, work in the hotels in some capacity. And there was no travel, there's no tourism. So it was a really difficult time to open a restaurant. And after a few months of opening and closing and opening and closing and having all of the restrictions of how many people we can serve and how many people we can even have in the kitchen too, because you had to have people have space in between everyone. You couldn't have a crammed kitchen with, that heat and the intensity that you think of when you think of back of house. So eventually the Wynn decided that it wasn't going to work out as a concept. So they closed the concept and asked me to stay on and reopen another Mexican restaurant with a new menu and new decor without Daniela and Enrique. And I said yes.
I'm hoping that you and Daniela and Enrique didn't fall out over this.
Oh, no, not at all. This was something that was beyond us.
Because there are so many terrible stories like that in the food biz.
No, that's not the case at all.
I'm glad to hear that. So the Wynn says to you, okay, invent a Mexican restaurant. What did you do?
We researched. It was a little bit of a different concept. Casa Playa is coastal Mexican.
Well, did they come to you and say do coastal Mexican?
They did. That was the assignment, coastal Mexican, which was perfect for me because I have a lot of experience in seafood with Marea, and that's what I like to eat too. Like I like eating light and refreshing. I like the ceviche, the mariscos. That's my favorite part of the menu to play around with. And we just started researching and developing and coming up with the concept. That was it.
Define the concept for me.
Casa Playa is a coastal Mexican restaurant. That's it. It's, focused on seafood.
But there's a lot of coast in Mexico and there's a lot of regional cuisine in Mexico. So is this specific to one region, or is it, if it came out of the water anywhere in Mexico, we're good with it?
There's a lot of influence from the Baja coast, but there's also some influence from Oaxaca. We get a lot of our corn for our masa program from Oaxaca, but the seafood and the flavors of a lot of the dishes are rooted in like the Baja, the Ensenada, that region of Mexico.
Traditionally, what is the local seafood cooking? How do they handle the ingredients? What are the popular ingredients?
One of the big ones is shrimp. Like the Sea of Cortez in Sinaloa is one of the most fertile areas in the world outside of Vietnam for shrimp. We get fresh Mexican blue shrimp, which is beautiful. We get tuna, we get kampachi, we get lobster, a lot of sushi.
Wait. Lobster, it's not the same as lobster you grew up with in New England, is it?
No, it's a little bit different. The shell's a little bit harder, the tail's a little bit bigger, the claws are a little bit smaller.
The taste profile the same, or?
For what we do with it, it's very similar.
What do you do with it?
We have it on our surf and turf.
What's the other half of your surf and turf?
I think of this dish as the greatest hits of Casa Playa. It's not the regular surf and turf that's just steak and lobster. We have Wagyu carne asada. We have our pork belly el pastor. We have our Mexican blue shrimp. We have our lobster that's brushed in our lobster oil with molita chilies. We blanch it lightly to get out of the shell, and then we grill it. Absolutely delicious. Onions, chili torreado, fresh tortillas, a bunch of different salsas, and it's great for the table. We get a lot of football players in. A football player can crush that no problem.
Is it a family style dish?
It is a large format dish. One of the things that we do at the restaurant is we encourage everyone to share. A lot of people get individual plates, but the food is meant to be eaten together, and a lot of the things build on each other, and you want to be able to experience as many things as you can, because you start off with your ceviches and your tongue is just excited with the bright brightness, the acid, the spice. And then as you dive into the hot apps and the entrees, it's a journey of different flavors, of different chilies, of different techniques, and you just build on it. So we encourage people to get a good amount of food and get a variety of food and share it. But we also, because of this, have a pretty decent large format entree section. We have between 5 and 6 large format entrees at any given time.
We'll be right back. What are the other large format dishes you do?
One of the dishes that's been on the menu since we opened is our crispy skin carnitas. We get in baby pigs. They're 20-pound pigs, and we'll cut them into quarters just so they can fit in the oven. Honestly, brine them, and then we cook them for 8 hours to get the meat super, super juicy, but to also dry out the skin. And then to order, we rub it in all this lard, put it in the 500-degree oven, and they puff up like chicharron on the skin does. And that's an absolutely delicious dish, great for the table. We have our pork belly El Pastor, which we had a custom-made trompo.
A trompo being?
The trompo is what you cook the El Pastor on, like the spit, and it goes around, you cut the meat off. Typically it's made with like sliced pork butt that's marinated in your El Pastor adobo. You layer it on, and then as you cut it, it's, like shawarma. That's the influence of Pastor, the El Pastor dish.
Yeah, people are unfamiliar necessarily. This is basically a dish influenced by folks who came to Mexico from the Middle East, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
I'm loving the menu here.
Oh.
Keep talking.
And then it's served with a candied baby pineapple. So when you're at the table, you get a knife and you can make your own El Pastor tacos with this delicious pork belly and this pineapple. And it's just really fun, a really interactive dish.
I notice you do duck confit.
We do duck pibil, pato pibil. So cochinita pibil is a traditional dish from the Yucatan where they get whole pig or pork butt and they'll rub it in their annatto sour orange. And they usually use these bigger flavors. Like annatto is quite sour and has a really strong flavor. And the sour orange also has a strong flavor because typically they weren't using the most high quality meat, but we're getting really beautiful ducks. We just want the flavor to be enhanced. And then they will wrap it in banana leaf, put some water and stuff in it, and then they'll cook it in the ground overnight. So we wanted to get all of these flavors. So we make a pibil adobo. So we will dry out the duck and then rub it in this pibil. So the duck itself is like a vibrant red color. And then we cook it slowly. It's not confit. It's just cooked in a stock that we make. So it's not as fatty because duck is fatty, but it's not as fatty as a confit. And then as we cook it, it just falls right off the bones. We take the bones out and we fold under all of the meat and then get the skin nice and crispy with all of that red annatto adobo. Serve it with pickled onions, lots of habanero, lots of salsa.
Everyone nods when you say adobo. What exactly makes up adobo?
I think of an adobo as for what we use it for, is like a chili rub. So like carne asada will have like smoky chilies. You'll see the pasilla, you'll see like the charred garlic, charred onion. And then like for El Pastor, you see a lot of guajillo chilies. We use like pineapple vinegar, onions and garlic for the pibil. So it's just herbs, spices, chilies made into a rub that you can put on meat to get that flavor. Because like carne asada can just be as simple as grilled meat. You want to enhance the flavor. You want to get some of that roasted chili. You want to get the richness of the meat to really come out when you're eating it. And you do that by adding chili. You're adding roasted onion, roasted garlic, spices, stuff like that.
When people walk in, are they expecting the flavors they're used to? Do you find you have to educate diners somewhat to what Mexican food is for them in your place?
A lot of people come in with an open mind, but I think that a lot of people that come in from different regions expect Mexican food to be different. Like in Texas, it has a very different style of Mexican food that when you see in San Diego or Southern California. In different regions of Mexico, and like even in New Mexico and Arizona, you'll see different types of Mexican food, and that's because it's influenced by what it's the border. You obviously have a very different type of cuisine in Baja than you do in the region just south of Texas. You'll see like a lot of, flour tortillas. You'll see a lot of steak. You see a lot of really like rustic farm food, and like people from those regions will come to the restaurant and expect something like that. But then they're typically pleasantly surprised by how vibrant and how alive the food is compared to what they might be used to.
Personally, I think there's a lack of understanding among many Americans at how sophisticated Mexican cuisine can be. I mean, it's one of the world's, again, it's regional, but put it all together, it's one of the world's great cuisines, is it not?
I would totally agree with that. I think that people are quite close-minded when it comes to Mexican cuisine. It is so diverse and so unique. And I feel like I could travel throughout Mexico for a year and still experience things that I've never experienced here in the States just because we just don't see it.
Let me ask you, you have no Mexican heritage in your family. Let me throw the cultural appropriation question at you. There are those who say, if you're not tied to the food, you shouldn't cook it, or certainly shouldn't be seen as a leading force in it. Andrew Zimmern certainly got into trouble when he told Midwesterners he was going to save them from horseshit Chinese food. Do you have any feelings about this? Have you been accused of going someplace you shouldn't go?
I think that when people get an understanding of what we're doing and how I approach the cuisine, they understand that I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone. I have a huge respect for Mexican cuisine and culture, and I've learned from the best Mexican chefs. They've really taken me under their wing and guided me and taught me and showed me. I take all of these lessons and I take my peers, who a lot of them are Latin and from Mexico, and we discuss things like this. And I want to make sure that what I'm making is true to Mexican cuisine and Mexican heritage. And I want to also teach people about what I've learned. A lot of my chefs have come from specific regions and don't know how expansive other Mexican cuisines are. So we're able to all learn from each other. And the environment is very inclusive. We have a lot of collaboration between the chef team and even the cooks. I encourage everyone to come to me with ideas and inspiration. It happens every day. Like our lambiria is my tortilla cook, Olga, is her recipe, is her family recipe. And she made it for us for family meal one day and it blew me away. And she was actually the first person besides me to put something on the menu. And I was so proud of her. And now I have dishes from all of my chefs.
Birria, as I understood it, initially was goat. And then when it got north to Tijuana, it became beef. And now as it has become a hip happening thing in the States, it's generally beef. I've never heard of lamb birria.
We don't have a lot of access to goat in casinos. So this is another gamey meat. It's not the same flavor profile, but it's a little bit closer than what beef is. And we happened to be doing an event and we had 2 extra baby lamb. So that's what she used and it was absolutely delicious. So that's what we went with.
Where do you get your product from? Much of it has to come from Mexico. How do you do this?
All of our corn that we use to make all of our masa, we get from Hacienda. Cosme was the first customer to use Hacienda.
What is Hacienda?
They import corn from small farms in Mexico. What they do is actually really incredible. So they'll go to farms and we get most of our corn from Oaxaca, but they go to all different regions that grow corn and they'll buy all of it. The amount that Hacienda is buying is the amount of corn that these farmers might sell in a year, and they buy it all in one shot. So these farms are getting more resources and more means to continue to do what they're doing, get more land or whatever they want to do, and to support their family and their community. We get all of our corn from them, so they import all of this corn from Mexico. All of our chilies come from Mexico, and we have specific people here that help us get them. We get fresh huitlacoche from Oaxaca, which is really incredible.
That's that's mold, right?
It's the fungus that grows on corn, and it's known as like the truffle of Mexico, which I never really liked because it's completely different. And there is the flavor profile of mushroom, but there's also some nice corn. We make ours into an esquites with scallops.
Into what?
Esquites. The cooked corn is usually really like street food.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you getting your seafood?
We get our seafood from all over. We try to get as much from the Pacific coast as possible. Like we get our campachi, we get our whole fish, our snapper, our oysters, all of our shellfish comes from the Pacific coast. But then we also have a bronzino, an octopus that we get from the Mediterranean, just because that's where they come from. We try to source, I don't want to say locally because we're a landlocked desert. You don't want to have local Las Vegas seafood. I don't even know if it exists. But we try to source as much as we can from the Pacific coast because that's what we're close to. You see it a lot in Mexican cuisine. It's all very regional and you don't see a lot of regions like shipping. You don't see the stuff from Baja getting shipped to the Yucatan or Oaxaca and vice versa. So we try to keep that idea alive in our restaurant. We do get stuff from like the East Coast and we do get stuff from the Mediterranean, but we try not to source a ton of stuff from there just because it's not close to us. We don't want to have to deal with all of that shipping and all of that. Like it doesn't feel as sustainable. Same with all of our produce. We get local mushrooms. There's some really good local mushrooms. And we work with a produce company that goes to local farmers markets in Las Vegas, Arizona, and California and gets all of this fresh produce for us. They're working with small farms, which is always really good. And we're able to get some really beautiful produce here.
Let's go back to the masa program because this is pretty intense. You're doing how many different varieties of corn and why different varieties and what do you use them for?
We will cook 2 different types of corn every day. We always do a light color and a dark color.
That you use for what at that point?
We make all of our masa, I call them masa treats, in-house. We make all of our tortillas in-house. So if you come in and you get any entree, they're not made as a taco. They come with tortillas for you to make tacos, like all of our large format entrees, like carnitas, pibil, surf and turf, like all of those are things that you want to eat as a taco. So instead of us making you individual lobster lobster tacos or individual steak tacos, you get to make your own with your own salsas and you get to pick and choose what you want. So we make all of our tortillas in-house. They're all hand pressed to order, which just sets our food apart from anything else. But we also do all of our tostadas that come with our ceviches, our tamales. We'll do seasonally, we'll do like flautas. We've done masa pancakes for brunch.
Masa pancakes?
Oh my God. They are so good.
Ooh.
So good. We don't have brunch on the menu anymore, but it might come back and those masa pancakes might come back.
Your tamal, that is the word for the filling for what we know as tamales, correct?
I always think of tamal and tamale as the same thing. They're just said a little bit differently.
Okay. You don't use lard.
We don't use lard.
Why not?
Because I wanted the dish to be, I feel like I've been talking a lot about some of our heavier dishes, for like our carnitas and our pork belly, where the majority of our menu is either vegetable or seafood based. I was just playing around with stuff, and coconut oil and lard at room temperature are the same texture. They're both solid at room temperature. So I was like, this is really interesting. Let's try whipping this and seeing if we can make a tamal out of this whipped coconut oil instead of whipped lard. And I wanted it to be a vegetable tamal. So instead of having that rich flavor of the lard, you could really taste the vegetables that are in there. So we did it and it worked.
What's the vegetable?
So we use squash. We make a squash filling. We use patty pan squash, onion, garlic, serrano, epazote, and then we fold it in. So instead of having a layer of these vegetables, you get this vegetable filling in every bite.
Oh, look, I got to tell you, whether you call it a tamal or a tamale, there is nothing better than walking around a little square in a Mexican town and buying this product from somebody's grandmother who's sitting there with a cooler.
Oh, yeah.
That's heaven. Now, you're actually nixtamalizing the corn yourself, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Explain that for folks who don't understand.
The process of nixtamal is you take your corn, and this isn't like the sweet American corn that you shuck and you just eat right off the cob. This corn is a much different property, a much different consistency. It's really hard. You can't just eat it.
In fact, you can't digest it.
No, you can eat it, but it will just go right through you. It might upset your stomach a little bit. What we do is you treat it like a vegetable. We essentially are blanching and shocking it, but we're doing it with calcium hydroxide, which makes it digestible. It breaks down the outer layers of the corn, allowing the corn to get broken down and get milled into what we have as masa. So we cook the corn with the cow for about 20 minutes or so, and then we shock it. And we don't want to shock it all the way because if you get it to be cold, then the corn will seize up. If you're doing a blanch and shock vegetable, it'll shock. It'll stop cooking right away. You want it to keep cooking and keep being a little bit warm. And then we let it sit overnight to continue to let that cal penetrate the corn and really break down all of the layers of the corn, allowing the corn to be soft enough to be able to mill in our machine. We have a giant 15 horsepower engine with these two 50-pound volcanic stones. One of them is stationary and one of them moves, and the corn gets fed in and it gets ground in these ridges, and that's what produces the masa.
And from that, you're making
all of the things.
You're fresh making my tortillas.
That's correct.
I could not be hungrier right now. Cooking in Las Vegas is, I was going to say weird. I mean, you're in a casino.
Yeah.
We're next door to a casino. Do you get, how do I say this? How much of your crowd really respects the food and how much of your crowd is between rounds of a game?
It depends. Because Las Vegas, our clientele is everyone, right? So we have to make food for everyone. There are times where everyone that's in Casa Playa is excited about food, is ready for it, is there for this really unique culinary experience. And then there are times where there's a convention in town and they're just there because this is the restaurant that their friend made a reservation at. But no matter who you are or where you come from or what experience you're looking for, we can offer that to you. So if you really want to have a really elevated fine dining experience, that is something that you can have at this restaurant. But if you want to come in, you're playing poker, you need to be out in 20 minutes and you want to shove a queso fundido and a steak on your mouth in 20 minutes and then go back to your game, we can also do that. And part of what front of house does and their jobs is seeing the vibe of these people and seeing what their reservations are and where they're coming from so they can make sure they get the right experience.
The culinary world at large, and I assume Vegas is the same or perhaps even worse, remains a male-dominated industry. How bad is it?
I would say that on the Strip, it's 99% men. I don't know if this fact is right anymore, but last year I was kind of polling other casinos and there were less than 10 female executive chefs of restaurants on the Strip. And it's different outside of the Strip. There's a really solid female community of chefs, bartenders, beverage directors of sorts. But on the Strip, there is very few female chefs. And I'm actually quite proud because half of my team is female and 4 out of my 6 chefs are female. And they crush it.
And look, we're a few years past the big revelations of Me Too, but the industry at large, how much of the problem has been addressed and how much of it is structural and won't go away?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I think that there's always going to be problems. And I think that some of them have been addressed. And I think that there's still a lot of problems that have not been addressed. And I don't know if they ever will be, which is unfortunate. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
That's sad. And on top of that, the whole restaurant industry is not in the best of shape right now. Do you have any sense of what the future may hold beyond Las Vegas for the food world?
I think that the restaurant industry has improved quite a bit from maybe even before I started cooking until...
In what way?
I feel like there's a stigma around kitchens that they are like aggressive and they might not be the most healthy work environments. You know, there's a lot of yelling, a lot of manipulation, a lot of abuse in many ways.
And that has gotten better, you think?
I absolutely think that's gotten better. I think that the wave of chefs of my generation, like I never really experienced anything like that. I'm really lucky. I know some of my peers have, but we're learning from this. We don't want that to be the culture. Like I watch shows like The Bear and it's like traumatizing to me. I'm like, this isn't what restaurants are. Like there might be like 1 or 2% of restaurants that are like that. People are watching these shows and they're like, well, I don't want my kid to be a chef. I don't want them to be in the restaurant industry. And I'm like, this isn't what restaurants are anymore. Like, again, like some are, some aren't.
When people talk to me about why they love being in the restaurant industry, it's about camaraderie and we're all in this together. And that's a big part of it, isn't it?
We're a team. Like I always tell everyone, I'm the team leader. I grew up playing a lot of sports and it's like a sports team. It's like a lot of adrenaline, it's a lot of push. Restaurants will always be physical. Like they take strength, they take endurance. You're on your feet all day, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's toxic. If you're going to be working the line and dinner service is 5 hours, you're going to just be on your feet for a good amount of time. That's just the nature of the business. But you see a lot of chefs now prioritizing their health, prioritizing their mental health, and prioritizing mental health for their team, giving their team the resources to be able to have a work-life balance. And it's up to us to lead by example and to do that. Like I prioritize my health and my physical well-being so I can show up for my team. We are a union environment. So take advantage of being in a union environment. Take advantage of the fact that you work 8 hours and you can go home. Like everyone has the same schedule every week. And it's great. You can have your balance. You can have your schedule. You can have your routines. You can spend that time with your family. You can have all of these resources. That's what we need to see more of in this industry. We need to see that balance. We need to see the consistency. We need to be able to have both. You shouldn't have to be on call or be caught up in your job so much that you can't have a life outside of that.
But to take the health analogy a step further, the industry itself is having some health problems at the moment. Prices, especially real estate and rents. This is a tough time, especially for small operators, to make a go of it in the restaurant industry. What do you see coming down the road there?
I agree with that. This is the time that we all need to be really smart about how we engage with it. And I think that is also a really important time to support small businesses, support our community, because these are the restaurants that will suffer. Like the casinos will be fine, but the small businesses and the businesses that are such a huge part of this city, like Las Vegas, let's say, but like even in New York, you could do it for any city, are the ones that we need to be supporting more than ever right now. They're the ones that are going to hurt the most. And we don't want these small businesses to go away.
You were a James Beard Best Chef Southwest nominee this year. I read that you'd like Michelin to come back to Vegas. They were there and left?
Yeah, they were here. They left in 2009. I think it had to do with the crash that happened in 2008. A lot of the businesses changed, but you see Michelin popping up everywhere. They just had the Michelin South, which is really cool. You know, they have California, Texas, Colorado.
Do awards matter?
They matter, but they're not the only thing that matters. It's great for restaurants to get recognized. I think that James Beard does an amazing job recognizing small businesses, and that can make or break small businesses too. Like being James Beard recognized as a small business is huge because, you know, it brings so much business and so much to the community. I think it's really, really great, but I don't think it's the only thing. There are a lot of restaurants in Vegas that deserve to be recognized on different platforms. And there isn't a platform in the city that really showcases the city's culinary scene on a national level. Like I said previously, there are so many chefs that came here to open, like, you know, Robuchon, whatever these like extremely fine dining restaurants restaurants are, and they have this skill set, and they've gone off and they've now done their own thing, and they're bringing that skill set to this city. But, you wouldn't know that. So I think it would be incredible for this city to have that recognition. Also for the restaurants that are on the Strip and all of that, I think it's great for everyone.
One of the first segments I did for Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives 8 million years ago was at a Stromboli joint far from the Strip. And it was darn fine. What's ahead for you?
Well, I continue to want Casa Playa to grow. We just turned 4, and the restaurant has changed a lot in the last 4 years.
In what way?
We didn't really have an identity when we first opened. There were a lot of people looking at other restaurants that exist in Las Vegas that had success in their own ways. We were compared to them a lot. This restaurant is successful, like, let's make it like this. This restaurant is successful, let's make it like this. And there was a lot of pushback, mostly from me, being like, that's not what I want to do. But it wasn't something that happened overnight. We've evolved into a dining destination in a way that other restaurants have not. And we've really created a unique experience from anything else on the Strip, which I'm really proud of. So I continue to want to push and grow. Like, I would love to see Casa Playa pop up in different ways, whether it's a taco stand somewhere or just growing in different markets. That would be really cool. But I really want to focus on the restaurant that I have right now. I want it to continue to be the best it can be, continue to be a part of the community and support my team, especially in a really difficult time for restaurants. I want my peers and everyone around me to feel supported in every way they can.
I won't tell the folks at the Wynn. You think there's a place of your own somewhere in the future?
I'm not sure. I don't know if that's the direction I want my career to go in. I'm really happy right now with what we're doing. I'm really happy with the support that I'm getting, and I want to see how we can grow with what we have.
Clearly, you're doing a phenomenal job, Chef, so congratulations.
Thank you. Come visit.
I want to come visit. I am so hungry after talking about your surf and turf that I might just get on a plane tonight.
Oh, you know where to find us.
I'll be there. Thank you so much for doing this today. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Sarah Thompson on Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. I'll see you next time. And check out the Culinary Characters Unlocked Substack.